Hi everyone, Chillax here and welcome back to another Anchor Panic video. So as you can see before you, Argo, the brand new nature stun operator, has finally released for global version 2.1, and today we're going to go over everything you need to know about her, such as whether to pull or pass on her, what she does, how to build her, how to build teams around her, and of course we will do a live showcase. And of course I will show you guys the skin animation for the Battle Pass private date skin if you decide to support the game. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, should you pull or pass on Argo? Well, first of all, Argo is not a limited time operator, which means that after her 3-week banner expires and her banner rotates out to make way for version 2.2, she will still remain in the pity pool, you can say, which means that you could theoretically fail pity to her in the future at any time, which means that you shouldn't feel FOMO on picking her up. I noticed that a lot of people absolutely love her character design, and I finished the event story and it made me love her even more. So I know a lot of people want her. It's just a matter of they don't want to spend so many tickets on her that they don't have enough for, say, the next limited time operator, which could appear in version 2.2. So what I would advise is that if you are a free-to-play player, admire respectfully, but unless you really love her, because waifu over meta, unless you absolutely love her, perhaps wait until a limited time operator comes out. That way, as you're summoning for that limited time operator, you might fail the pity to Argo. Now, if you are a low spender, I think that it is worthwhile to secure 1 copy of Argo and 1 copy of her signature sigil. Now, the funny thing is that her signature sigil might be more valuable than the operator herself, because her signature sigil, as we will talk about later, is one of the most universal sigils in the game, being one of 4 signature sigils so far that provides a speed bonus as a main stat, and being the only signature sigil to date to increase the effect hit rate of any operator who's equipped with this sigil. So for this reason, this makes the sigil one of the most valuable sigils in the game from a PvP perspective. So that's a consideration there. Now, if you're a whale, you can consider bringing her to Ascension 3 or perhaps even Ascension 6, because at those 2 different benchmarks, you are able to apply offensive buffs to not only herself as well as the party, which includes one of the best offensive stat lines in the game, Defense Ignore, which is not a very easy stat line to acquire. And Argo, starting at Ascension 3, is able to apply Defense Ignore, skill damage increase, and 1 more buff to potentially the entire party. So her Ascensions, I would say, are quite good, and it turns her almost into a support in addition to stealing energy from the enemy. And her signature sigil is also worth duping, even for a little bit, because being able to energy burst on turn 1 is quite powerful, especially if you are serious about PvP, because as we will find out later, Argo's energy burst does delay the enemy's energy burst, and so you could potentially position Argo in such a way that she will tail wrap the opponent on round 1, say like an opposing Abyssalicia or opposing Frost Knight Dawn, to prevent them from energy bursting on turn 1. Max duping this sigil can be quite valuable from a PvP standpoint. Not to mention you get extra speed and effect hit rate, which obviously is very good. So that's about it on pull or pass. Now I'll go ahead and, as per tradition, I'll hide my webcam and play the animations.
今日暑いね。すごい汗。フルーツティーを買ってよかった。冷たくて甘さもちょうどいい。まるで恋みたい。え、 一口味見してみます？観覧車もうすぐ最高点に着きますよ。早く願いを言わないと。今夜私たちを邪魔する仕事が来ませんように。前にも言いましたが、今日の私の時間は完全にリンカーのものですよ。どこで何をするか全部リンカー様の言う通りに。このぬいぐるみは私が特別注文したものですよ。これがあればどんな時でも安心していられます。でももういりません。この子のモデル、あんたはここに座っているから。リンカ、ハグしてもいいですか？
Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that animation. You're very welcome. And she also has another skin if you like that more. That's this one right here, Morning Tail. Yes, this one's quite nice as well. And this is the animated version of this, which is quite amazing. Alright, so let's go over what she does, right? That's why you're here. So yes, so this is Argo right here. She is a nature stun operator, and she is focus opposite targeting, which is the best targeting in the game in my opinion. This allows her to hit any operator on the enemy side regardless of where they are positioned, and this is very important from a PvP perspective because this allows you to potentially steal the energy burst or even slow down a specific enemy such as Abyssalicia, Frost Knight Dawn, Lang Zhao, Echo, etc, etc. So very powerful. Okay, and then for her talents, talent 1, this is the bread and butter of her kit. At the start of each turn, she can randomly pull 1 out of 3 items from her bag. And mind you, each one of these items provide a 1-turn buff to herself, as well as a 2-turn debuff on the enemy, and this will matter later on. So first item, Fatigue Gas, she increases her defense ignore by 12%, and when her skill connects, she has a 45% chance to reduce the target's energy acquisition efficiency by 25%. Basically, they don't get as much energy as they usually do, and this will allow you to delay the enemy's energy burst by at least 1 turn. And then for the second item, which is also very good, increases her skill damage by 10%, and her skill has a 35% chance to flat out steal or take away the half of the energy that the target has. So this will, of course, also delay the enemy's energy burst. And the third item increases her effect resistance by 15%, which makes it harder for the enemy to freeze her, stun her, that sort of thing. And her skill has a 40% chance to reduce the target speed by 30%. And so this is a way for her to potentially mess up the turn order of the opponent. And the talent 2 Fortune Turnaround increases her own effect hit rate by 10%, and whenever she successfully inflicts a negative negative effect via her talent 1 on the target, her defense ignore will increase by 4%, triggering only once per energy skill, lasting until the end of battle. Yes, so she could potentially get up to 16% defense ignore, which I really like because I like that stun operators not only crowd control but also contribute a bit of damage, and it seems like everything with her kit offers her some offensive capability, which is really nice. It frees up your team building slots for more defenders, supports, healers, that sort of thing. So this is great. And then for her other skills, this is her basic attack, single target skill. This is one of the better skills out there, potentially hitting multiple targets. And then the energy burst, it's an AoE nature, a damaging move that also applies a stack of corrosion, even if you are not running a nature homology, or like you don't have it activated. Lasting 2 turns up to 5 stacks. And then her energy burst has an 80% chance to inflict tail wrap on the main target. And this is one of the best parts of her kit, reducing 1 energy slot on the next action. Effect lasts until the end of character's turn. This clause in parentheses right here is so powerful because even if the target doesn't have energy at that present time, the tail wrap debuff will trigger as soon as triggers when the target takes an action, right? Which usually begins with the skill, which would normally give them 50% pre-filled energy. So the tail wrap will take away that energy generated from that action. So I really like this. This pretty much guarantees that you delay their energy burst, which makes this even more powerful than Echo's Electro Ban, because if Echo is slowed down to a point where she moves after or at the end of the round, then the Electro Ban doesn't do anything, right? Because the enemy has already energy bursted. But with this, even if for whatever reason she gets frozen or she gets delayed, whatever, she gets slowed or the opponent outspeeds you, she will still prevent their energy burst. So this is quite nice. Now for her Ascensions, these are very good Ascensions. Ascension 3, her self-buff duration increases to 2 turns instead of 1. And actually at Ascension 6, her buffs last her 3 turns instead of 1. So her Ascensions do quite a bit. And then other allies gain 15% of the corresponding stat buff that she had applied to herself. And at Ascension 6, this increases to 40% of whatever she applies to herself onto other allies. So this is a way for her to provide her allies additional defense ignore, skill damage increase, and even effect resistance. Huge. It can make your entire team less likely to get frozen or crowd controlled. So very good there. And it also improves the consistency of her abilities. So no duplicate items taken in the first 3 turns for Argo, which means you'll get a chance to get each one of her items once. And this can really diversify the amount of buffs she applies to herself and her allies, as well as the range of debuffs that she applies on the opponent. So I like her Ascensions. And then her Stellaron, typically you would move up and to the left to pick up attack, skill damage, and speed bonus. And then from there, I would recommend, instead of going up to block chance, to after you pick up the speed node, go to the right, get some effect resistance, as well as, more importantly, effect hit rate. This is a very important stat line to let her land her debuffs more accurately. And I don't think the rest is very important. Like, I don't think Talent 1, Talent 2 is super important. I think these nodes are cheap enough to be worth picking up. 9.4% damage reduction is very powerful. 15% extra block chance is also very powerful. Now, her signature sigil is one of the most universal and best sigils in the game from a PvP standpoint. It is the 4th signature sigil introduced to the global server to introduce speed bonus as a main stat line. And it is the only signature sigil to date for global that increases the effect hit rate of anyone who is equipped with the sigil, not to mention additional speed. So, just to read this, each action increases the wielder's speed by 3% and effect hit rate by 1.5%, lasting until the end of battle up to 4 stacks. So at 1 copy of the Sigil, you can get up to 12% speed and 6% effect hit. And this effect hit is basically accuracy. So an extra 6% accuracy, that alone is a lot. It's incredibly difficult to increase effect hit rate, and to increase it this much on a pretty much universal Sigil is quite powerful. And if equipped by Argo, there's a 70% chance to gain 50% energy recharge at the start of the first turn, which basically allows Argo to potentially energy burst on round 1, which is very important, right? Because you want to tailor wrap, say like an opposing Abyssalesia or opposing Frost Jade or opposing Frost Knight Dawn to prevent them from energy bursting on turn 1. Actually, running Argo position against the opposing Frost Jade seems really powerful. If you can prevent the enemy from reviving, that's a huge advantage in PvP. I just thought of that. And then this last line is incredible. The energy burst has a 16% chance to apply tail wrap to non-primary targets. So not only can you try to prevent the opposing Frost Jade from energy bursting, you have a small chance to potentially turn off the energy bursts of multiple other units. So this is really good. And if you have max dupe of this Sigil, she has a 100% chance to energy burst on round 1. So this can have really good effect on PvP. So yes, very powerful Sigil there. Okay, so now let's go over how to build her. Actually, while we stick with the signature Sigil here, in terms of in-power stat lines, I would recommend from a PvP perspective, if you want to have max speed as well as offensive damage potential, you go speed, crit rate, defense penetration, and you can also settle for crit damage and natural damage if you get them first. And then for her model sets, this I think is a good universal model set combination: 4-piece precision, 2-piece nature, because with 4-piece precision you increase her effect hit rate by up to an additional 10%, and she can increase her attack as well with every successful debuff, and she applies a lot of debuffs like every turn, so she can increase her attack by up to 20%. And then, 2-piece nature for the extra 10% nature, I think is quite good. Oh, 10% plus, 6% from the 2-piece. So you can get an extra up to 16% extra effect. Yeah, so, that's almost 100% tail wrap accuracy right there, even without the signature Sigil. And then, with regards to the remodel effects, crit rate, crit damage, max speed, obviously, the rest into base attack and attack. Now, if you are going against really difficult opponents, like let's say you're top 10 in your bracket in PvP, and you need your Argo to outspeed the opponent's Echo, or maybe a lower investment non-Stellaron turn, then there is an argument to be made. You go 4-piece precision, 2-piece raging wave, which was originally what I wanted to do from the start, but I want to try this set out first because I want to see how much damage Argo does in PvE. Now, speaking of PvE, let's go over the team formations now. So I want to speak on the PvE considerations when it comes to team building around Argo, because one really cool thing about stun operators is that with this class only, whenever they inflict any sort of crowd control on the enemy, they also reduce a flat 40% of the enemy's tenacity gauge, which makes them a pseudo breaker. And one issue I was running into for my 5th Entropy Cataclysm team was not only damage output, not only survivability, but also being able to reliably break the tenacity gauge of the boss, the giant robo lady, without sacrificing too much offense. And I think Argo is kind of the missing piece for potentially a nature damaging team for Entropy Cataclysm, because instead of being forced to run Dione or Catalpa, now you have a third sub DPS who can also reduce the enemy's tenacity gauge, reduce the enemy's energy burst so that you can keep the team alive without a traditional healer, because Grenache, even with her 20% lifesteal ability, it's not enough to keep the team alive on rounds 6 or even 5 with my builds. However, with the addition of Argo guaranteeing the delay of the opponent's energy burst on rounds 2, 4, and 6. This makes it so that you have an extra round basically to top up the HP of your operators before the boss does the basic attack, skill, and energy burst all in one round, right? You all know what I'm talking about. So this is the team that I plan to bring for the upcoming Entropy Cataclysm for Team 5, if you want to give this a try. Essentially how this team works is that you are running Double Breaker in the form of Grenache and Sparkling. Grenache will provide lifesteal for the entire party based on her positioning. Sparkling, thanks to her talent 2, I want to say. Yeah, thanks to her talent 2, anyone within a 3x3 grid will get a crit rate buff of 7.5%, and she's a breaker too, and her damage is okay. So she will be buffing the crit rate of Dwalin, Grenache, and Argo. And Crag, she's here because she does a little bit of damage, not as much as Dwalin or potentially Argo. However, she buffs the defenses of the party, which helps with your survivability. She buffs the nature damage of your party. And with 3 nature operators, you get an additional 10% nature damage, and even the ability to bypass the enemy's block chance. I'm not sure if enemy bosses have block chance, but if you do, this homology will bypass some of that, thus optimizing your damage output. In the past, if I wanted to activate 3 nature, I would need to run Dione or Catalpa, but Catalpa's damage is horrendous. I've tried. And Dione, she does help with survivability, but she doesn't really contribute any damage. So, Argo can be run in PvE. Now for PvP, I think she also has a role in both normal arena as well as advanced arena. Now normal arena showcases, you're going to need to wait for me to pick up more Ascensions. But for advanced arena, she's already made some sort of impact for my second team, which I'll go over right now. So in the past, what I've typically done was I ran a mono lightning team, but now I splash physical in order for my Mustang to outspeed the opponent's turn and echo, thanks to her talent, as well as her being equipped with the wind drift and boosting the party's speed, which allows my echo to outspeed their turn. And then for team number 3, you have the Mono Ice team, which is very good. Even if the opponent outspeeds you, you have, the cheat death, you have, the defenses from Luna, and you got the crowd control of Lang Zhao, and you got 2 solid DPSs working together. But for talent 2, I've noticed, and maybe you guys have noticed this too, that Mono Quantum, it has its moments of glory, but against really well-invested opponents, they kind of fall flat, because even though they have a bunch of great DPSs like Tia, Ifrit, Newcastle, even though they have a good selection of defenders like Antelope and Flicker, as well as healers like Strain and Lulira, and the best speed tuner / offensive buffer in the game turn, one thing that the Quantum element is missing is crowd control. I don't think they have any right now. We have to wait until White Rose, the limited quantum stun operator appears probably November of this year. Oh, speaking of White Rose, she should be released on the Japanese server later today, maybe even right now. And my free-to-play JP account is ready to summon for her, so stay tuned for a White Rose guide, soon. But anyways, one way to fix this problem, this lack of crowd control, is instead of running Newcastle Tia, you can instead run Argo Tia. And this doesn't drop the damage output too much, because I know Newcastle does boost the quantum damage of Tia, but while damage is important, what's even more important is stabilizing in the game, right? Preventing the opponent from executing their game plan is just as important as a little bit extra damage. So the compromise here is that you have a bit less damage from Newcastle without Newcastle. However, with Argo, you have the potential to lock down an enemy, or at Ascension 3 lock down multiple enemies from casting their energy bursts. Excuse me, and this allows your Tia to do what she does best, which is to pick up KOs. Yeah, so that's the offensive team that I'm running right now, and it seems to be doing pretty well. I'll go ahead and do the replay. Sorry, I keep burping for some reason. I'll do the replay here. Okay, so turn goes first, and even though and Tia moves second. Tia has speed in her signature sigil, and even though my Argo doesn't have max speed in her sigil, but she goes first, and I still don't understand the buff icon yet, so I don't know which thing she pulled out of her bag, but Argo has a 2 out of 3 chance to delay the enemy's energy burst, which you probably noticed. Sorry, this is going really fast. You probably noticed that the Newcastle went to low HP, and you know that if you bring the enemy's HP low enough and they heal, they have the potential to energy burst on turn 1, which the Newcastle could have done, but Argo, could have delayed that. And here with her energy burst, she's going to delay Flicker's energy burst. I think the debuff, the tail wrap connected, it's the icon with the snake, but my Tia picked up the KO, so you won't be able to see Flicker not be able to do her energy burst. But that's kind of the vision. You basically, in PvP, eventually you will get to a certain ranking where you face the same opponent over and over again, and when that happens, you can kind of rearrange your Argo so that she's consistently trying to steal energy and disrupt, say, like Frost Jade, Abyss Elysia, heck, even an opposing Tia, because opposing Tia can also energy burst on round 1. Quite a few operators can do so now. So anyways, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I hope you found this informative. Let me know in the comment section below whether you plan to summon for Argo or her signature sigil or not, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.